The object show community is almost 14 years old at this point. You see, for the uninformed, the object show community was created back in 2010 by Michael and Carrie Huang. You see, back in this fateful year of 2010, these two decided to create an object show by the name of BFDI. And let's just say, ever since 2011, the community has been growing substantially, with new people making their own object shows, YouTube channels, and fan art of already existing object shows almost every day. And me being the type of creator that I am, I've been interested in the object show community since I was very little. But ever since 2020, a lot of new object show related videos have been popping up. You see, since that fateful year of 2020, a lot of people have been making icebergs about specific object shows like Inanimate Insanity and BFDI. I mean, heck, somebody even made a BFDI OST iceberg. But you see, the thing is, I've never really seen anybody cover the actual object show community iceberg except for one person, and that was Gelatin Donut back in 2021, but his iceberg was only 11 minutes long, so I don't even know if I'm going to count that. Which is why I have taken it upon myself to create the object show community iceberg explained. Now, if you've been living under a rock lately or just somehow don't know what an iceberg means, I'm going to go ahead and explain it to you real quick. It's just an image separated by layers, and it goes from least creepy to most creepy, and that's really all you need to know. Now, one last thing before we actually start the video. If you're going to skip to a random place in the iceberg, I suggest that you watch it all the way from there to the end of the iceberg. It really does help me out a lot. Now, without any further ado, I present to you the object show community iceberg explained. BFDI. BFDI was the first ever object show to be created on January 1st, 2010. The show was created by two 12-year-old brothers by the name of Michael and Carrie Huang. BFDI mainly took inspiration from shows like Total Drama Island and Survival. BFDI currently has 5 seasons, with 2 of them ongoing. And for a little while, the show actually had its own mini-series called BFDI Mini, which was created on TikTok. BFDI is so big that some people even create their own fan shows and movies of BFDI. And some questionable art. The OSC. The Object Show Community, or OSC for short, is what BFDI basically created. And I'm gonna be honest, if you're watching this video, then you're probably in the OSC. And as of recently, the Object Show community has been getting really popular. People are making their own object shows, OSCs, and YouTube channels. The community was so big at one point that somebody even considered making a movie about the OSC, but we'll get into that later. But I will say that the community isn't always sunshine and rainbows. It's because there was a time where the community was pretty stagnant, and that's when J&J's AdSense account was suspended, so they couldn't make any YouTube videos. But since then, the Object Show community has definitely recovered. Inanimate Insanity. Inanimate Insanity was the second object show to ever be made back on September 14th, 2011. The show was created by 13-year-old Adam Katz and a couple of his friends after being inspired to create an object show by BFDI. Over the years, Inanimate Insanity has built up its own little fan base. Inanimate Insanity has 3 seasons, with 2 of them currently ongoing, being the 2nd and 3rd season. This is more of the case when the show first came out, but when Inanimate Insanity first released, it was more mature than BFDI, with a lot of the characters, especially Balloon, swearing very often in the show. Inanimate Insanity was also known to be one of the first plot shows in the object show community, which is also why it's a very respected object show. And by some people, Inanimate Insanity is regarded as the best object show to ever be made. New Friendly. New Friendly is, quote, like Gelatin Donut said, the national anthem of object shows. For those of you that don't know, New Friendly was a track created by Kevin MacLeod back in 2009. Ever since it got used in BFDI 1A, everybody started using it. I promise you, if you go to a random object show episode from 2016, you will find New Friendly in the background. It's just one of those classic tracks that you'll find in object shows, you know? In fact, New Friendly is still used in some object shows to this day, which is actually insane how much this song blew up just because of object shows. Adobe Animate. Adobe Animate, or more commonly known as Adobe Macromedia Flash, was the main animation app for most object shows. I'd say Adobe Animate is one of the most common animation apps used in object shows, right next to Flip a Clip. Most earlier object shows were made on Macromedia Flash, which is the same thing as Adobe Animate, just a tad bit different. Which is also mostly why you find a lot of popular YouTubers saying Flash instead of Adobe Animate. In fact, BFDI 5B was actually a Flash game, which unfortunately is one of the reasons why it's unplayable. Kinda, I guess. But yeah, I definitely say that Adobe Flash definitely holds a special place in a lot of animators' hearts. Just seeing how simply nostalgic a lot of old Flash games are to a lot of people. But I grew up on Scratch games, so I can't really relate. Joke shows. Joke shows are basically just a subgenre within the object show community. Joke shows usually just take a piss at like really formulaic object shows and kind of turn into, well, a joke. The best examples of this being BFPOR, Object Filler, and Battle for Circle. And of course, we can't forget about the joke show that started it all, Object Show 87. TDOS was also a pretty good example, but the show got more serious as the series progressed. The case of joke shows is a really interesting one, so if you want to get a good, fair analysis on joke shows, then I recommend a person on YouTube's video about it. He actually gives some fair criticism on these joke shows. Wow, fair criticism on a joke show. That is the dumbest sentence I've ever said. Satomi. Satomi was one of the showrunners for pre-split BFB and early Teapot episodes. She served as an animator, writer, and I think storyboarder, but don't quote me on that. She was also a voice actor for BFDI and voiced a decent amount of characters. Satomi was definitely highly respected within the BFDI and OSC community, and that's mainly because of a lot of her contributions to BFDI and early Teapot. I mean, that's a lot of dedication being a voice actor, animator, and writer for an object show. It was also known that Satomi was a fan of BFDI ever since BFDIA, but unfortunately after working on a couple of Teapot episodes, Satomi was laid off from the crew due to creative differences, which needless to say was definitely a pretty sad day for the object show community. Recommended characters. Recommended characters are fan characters recommended by viewers and fans of an object show. This process was popularized in late BFDI and has been growing ever since. Usually in these cases, the recommended characters will make an appearance in the actual object show episode. I'm guessing these are hosted either on Patreon or Discord servers, but the process of recommended characters has slowed down a little bit ever since they stopped appearing in BFB and Teapot. I remember back in the day when I always wanted to recommend a character for BFB, but I never could just because I didn't have a laptop or anything, which I will say definitely made 8-year-old me very, very sad. Stereotypes. Stereotypes in object shows are basically just stereotypical personalities for object show characters. Examples of this being Flowery, your stereotypical mean girl character, and Leafy, your stereotypical nice guy character. You can also go with Blocky, your stereotypical prankster character, and Snowball, your stereotypical jock/bully character. These types of character personalities were more present in the earlier days of the object show community, but they still shine through today. I will say that it is far less common to see stereotypical characters in object shows now, but there definitely still are some to this day. Object show shorts. Object show shorts are basically just miniature episodes of already existing object shows. They're mainly just small animated skits to distract the viewer from what's going on in the actual show. There are a lot of fan object show shorts made of popular object shows like BFDI and Inanimate Insanity, but sometimes the official creator of an object show can upload their own short. This practice is more popular for smaller object shows, but every now and then a bigger object show will release a couple shorts. Also, don't get this entry confused with object show clips, they are two different subjects. I'd say one of the best object show shorts creators will probably be K-Fire the Animator. Even though a lot of them don't have voice acting, they're still pretty entertaining to watch. If I don't completely forget, then I'll leave a playlist to some of them that I like. Old Jack and Jellify logo. This entry basically just refers to the old Jack and Jellify logo being a spoof of the Homestar Runner logo. If you don't know what Homestar Runner is, it was basically an old web series created in the mid-1990s. Just a silly animated web show that had a bunch of wacky characters in it. It was speculated that J&J were fans of Homestar Runner, seeing how they took inspiration from their logo. The logo was changed sometime before BFB or shortly after. And well, ever since, it's been the logo that we all know and love today, the one with 4X in it. But the old Homestar Runner logo was nostalgic nonetheless. The Huang brothers. I honestly don't know why I put this entry so low. Anyways, the Huang brothers, Michael and Carrie Huang, were the creators of BFDI. Very early on in BFDI's history, Michael and Carrie were the only people actually working on BFDI. But as the quality for episodes in the BFDI series started to get higher, the Huang brothers started to hire more crew members. Both Michael and Carrie own a total of 7 channels altogether, all of which I will not be mentioning in this video just because I do not feel like it. Also, I'm guessing that a lot of you guys already know who these channels are anyway. Animation Epic. Animation Epic is run by Adam Katz and a couple of his friends, and together they founded Inanimate Insanity. I would say the second biggest object show in the object show community. Now, a little bit after Inanimate Insanity was made, Animation Epic would actually become pretty good friends with Jack and Jellify, and the two groups usually attend OSC events together. Unfortunately, their two shows, Inanimate Insanity and BFDI, are non-canon, which basically just means that the shows are not connected and do not take place in the same universe. Which I speak for the entire OSC when I say that it's kinda sad that they're not canon. Serious shows. This entry basically just refers to a bunch of serious shows in the object show community that cross over the line of being a little bit more morbid. I'd say the last few seasons of TDOS and 1 are good examples of this. I am personally a fan of seriouser shows. It really just shows you a different side of the object show community that I personally like. Inanimate Insanity, in my opinion, is one of the first object shows to actually popularize this, which is probably another reason why people enjoy serious shows so much, as it kind of takes a break from the more sillier aspect of object shows. And it definitely shows in the view counts of some of these object shows. BFDI and the news. This entry is just referring to that one time where the marker plushie was in the news. That's it. 2,763. If you've been watching BFDI for like at least the past year, then you know how much they use 2,763. The first time that it was brought up in the series was in late BFDI season 1, and ever since it's become a running gag within the show. Now, over the years, a lot of people started to wonder why they used this number so much. So after a lot of people asked Michael and Carrie why they used 2,763 so much, they finally gave an answer. You see, that number that I'm not going to say again because I'm too tired of saying it, basically refers to the number of offspring within the Huang family. But some people were still speculative if that was the real reason, but I guess we'll never know. Object show fan art. Chances are if an object show gets big enough, there's going to be fan art on it. You can find these pieces of media on DeviantArt, Tumblr, or even Scratch. And hey, if you're lucky enough, the creator might actually feature your fan art at the end of an object show episode. Now, to me at least, I don't really know when fan art actually started happening, but if I'm going to make an educated guess, I would say early BFB, because I'd say that's when the audience really started to grow for BFDI, but then again, I could still be wrong. But not all of this fan art is good, and sometimes people draw really questionable art about object shows, which we will talk about more in-depthly at the bottom. YouTube channels. This entry just refers to all the channels made about BFDI or other popular object shows. Good examples of this are creators like FastStuck, Hypercrystal, Fortle, and a person on YouTube. Other smaller examples of these YouTubers are creators like Misk OSC and Tharum Clips. You should all go check them out, they're pretty good YouTubers. But don't click off this video though, I still need that watch time. But not all of these YouTubers have good reputations, and some of them have actually done pretty bad stuff. But we're gonna touch on that way further down in the iceberg. Discord. This entry just refers to all the Discord servers made within the object show community. These Discord servers can range from fan art servers, object show servers, to even YouTube channel servers. Over the years, a lot of object show creators have used Discord to communicate with each other. Also, this is more recent, but a lot of object shows and camps are created through Discord. In fact, I bet some of your favorite object show creators use Discord to communicate with each other. Not all of them, but some of them definitely do. I used to use Scratch though, so I can't really relate. Fans. This entry basically just refers to the fans of object show YouTubers or already existing object shows in the community. And I would say while the majority of fans in the object show community are normal, there are definitely a lot of weird people in the object show community that are fans of already existing weird object shows. I would say a good example of this would be Object Terror. There are also a lot of weird fans for popular object shows like BFDI and Inanimate Insanity. You know, now that I think about it, I don't think Object Terror had any real fans. DeviantArt. DeviantArt is basically just a art sharing website that a lot of object show users use. A lot of camps used to be made on DeviantArt back in the day, but like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people just use Discord now. Now, even though I didn't use DeviantArt a lot of my friends did, so that's kind of how I know as much as I do about it. But DeviantArt doesn't have the best reputation is because there is a lot of weird art on there. I don't suggest searching it up. I promise, if you do, you are going to get your childhood ruined. YTPs. YouTube poops or YTPs are basically just very high energy edits or parodies of existing object shows. Honestly, you could probably find YTPs of any existing show. They're not just restricted to the object show community. Now, even though a lot of YTPs aren't being made, there still are a lot of them that are pretty good nowadays. Some good OSC YTP creators are Bendy Fan Animations and Paper Mario Party. You should go check them out. I'm telling you right now, their YTPs are hilarious, bro. Especially the collabs. X finds out his value. X finds out his value was an animation that Michael and Carrie made for the pre-algebra class back in 2008. While recording this, I messed up and said that was the first ever BFDI related animation when it wasn't. But yeah, this animation was definitely a classic, and I think that they played this in my elementary school, but I could be wrong. It is kind of cool to see some of the older animations that Michael and Carrie made before BFDI, and if you were watching them back in the day, you probably would have no idea that those two characters in X finds out his value would later become the hosts of BFDI. Or BFB, my bad. But yeah, that's all we're going to cover for Tier 1. Let's move on to Tier 2. Games. I think this entry is just referring to all the games made related to object shows like BFDIA 5B, or it could be Fiery's Candy Bar Adventure or Wage the Fet, one of those. I don't really know though. Honestly, if I'm going to be like 100% honest, I don't think anybody else in the OSC has like made games for their object shows besides BFDI. But hey, if there's any other games in the OSC that I don't know about, feel free to let me know in the comments. Total Fiery Island. I have another entry on this Iceberg titled TFI. That is not Total Fiery Island, it's Total Fruit Island, but we'll get into that later. Anyways, Total Fruit Island was one of the first forms of actual visible media of BFDI. Well, actually, technically, it wasn't BFDI, it was just the BFDI cast in a different show before BFDI. Which is weird, is because that means that they've been competing for the past fucking 15 years. Like, dang, bro, y'all don't get tired of that? I mean, no wonder IDFB was created. They probably needed a damn break by then. Okay, nah, I'm just playing. I didn't mean all that. TWOW. 10 Words of Wisdom, or TWOW for short, was a camp created by Carrykin. Okay, I keep saying Carrykin, but it's Carry KH, so my bad if I say that throughout this Iceberg. Anyways, 10 Words of Wisdom was a camp created by Carry KH back in 2015, I'm guessing. And like he said in the prologue episode, he said it was a rebooted version of a way older camp that he made called Baguette. I'm not going to explain the whole history or meaning of 10 Words of Wisdom, but if you want to go see it, then go to Carry KH's video, 10 Words of Wisdom 0A. I think he gives a pretty good explanation on it. AdSense account suspension. This was both a sad and iconic moment in the OSC. You see, for those of you that don't know, back in 2013, Michael and Carrie's AdSense account was suspended, so they couldn't really make money from YouTube for a while. So during the time their AdSense account was suspended, they didn't upload anything. Which of course meant that the ongoing season at the time, BFDIA, didn't get any new episodes released during that time frame. I mean, the OSC wasn't completely hopeless at the time. People just watched Object Overload, EEE, or Object Invasion. People were going stir crazy trying to find out what happened to BFDI 6 until it came out 10 years later. Inanimate Insanity Season 2. This is literally just the second season of Inanimate Insanity. Yeah, nothing much else to say here. I mean, it's my favorite season, in my opinion, okay? It's my opinion. It's my opinion, okay? A person on YouTube. A poi, or a person on YouTube, is basically just known for being an Eggy stan. Nah, I'm just playing. He's not known for being an Eggy stan. Basically, a person on YouTube is just, he mainly uploads, like, miscellaneous content to his channel, but he is mostly known for liking Eggy a lot. But, you know, yeah. BFDI Wiki. The BFDI Wiki is basically just a Wikipedia page for BFDI that has a bunch of assets, backgrounds, and poses and stuff like that. I remember back in the day, I used to go to the BFDI Wiki and use some of their backgrounds on my own object show on Scratch. Those were definitely simpler times. BFDIA 6. BFDIA 6 was the 6th episode of BFDIA, which was lost for about a decade, but the reason why it was lost for so long is because Jackie Jolify's AdSense account was suspended, so that was probably why. But then the series just randomly popped up a decade later, and it just created a boatload of new fucking memes in the OSC, bro. BFB Unused Songs. This entry is basically just referring to all the unused tracks used in BFB that don't really have a name. Yo, I'm an absolute dumbass. They're called unused songs. I said that they were used in BFB. No, what, bro? Honestly, I'm just dumb, bro. I'm beyond dumb. Contestant companies and object shows. Even though I said in object shows, this is mainly referring to BFDI. Mainly because you probably won't find a lot of other contestant companies within other object shows. There definitely are some, just not that I can find. If I'm gonna be like completely honest though, a lot of these contestant companies that were in BFB kind of annoyed me when I was a kid. Like whenever I would see them come on screen, especially Lollipops for some reason. I legitimately do not know why. It just, something about that just kind of like annoyed me for some reason. I don't know. Total Fiery Points. Total Fiery Points was another comic strip created by Michael and Carey back in the day, but I think that one was mostly lost to time. The majority of the Total Fiery Points comics were lost, and I don't think we're ever gonna find them again. It does kind of suck though, because I feel like people talk about Total Fiery Island way more than they talk about Total Fiery Points. But I mean, then again, can you really blame them though? Like, there's not really a lot of media with Total Fiery Points. I mean, like, you know, there's not really much to actually talk about. But still though, I'm not gonna lie, it does kind of make me kind of sad. Viewer votings. Viewer votings are basically just like mini object shows where like they'll have a like very small challenge that the contestants will compete in, and then the viewers get to vote out, you know, who gets out. I would say viewer votings are pretty interesting, but they definitely are a newer thing in the OSC. I mean, I think I started to see them pop up around 2020 or 2021-ish. I don't know, though. But yeah, basically just to sum it all up, viewer votings are just like a miniature object show where, you know, viewers vote on who gets out, basically. Back when I was on Scratch, I used to see a lot of those. The BFDI Iceberg. This entry just refers to all the BFDI related icebergs that were made mainly in 2020, but there was one made in 2023 that was like 2 hours long, but the guy that made that turned out to be like kind of a scumbag, which we will talk about more indefinitely at the bottom of the iceberg. Merch. A common thing for newer object shows is to have merchandise to come along with it, and honestly, this is a pretty wholesome practice if you want to get some merchandise from your favorite object shows. This practice is usually wholesome until some freaking weirdos gets fucking body pillows involved in it. Yeah, of course, there's gonna be weird people with every single thing, like, niche in any community. That's the takeaway from this video. How about that? You know what? Yeah. Yep. That is a good lesson to learn. That is a pretty good lesson to learn. Stans. Stans are basically just extreme fans of object shows that usually make pretty weird art of their object shows that they idolize, which honestly, I think me and you can agree that we both hate these types of people. I mean, like, who would want to be a stan? If I'm going to be completely honest, I think this has to be like the most hated group of people in the object show community, right next to the groomers. Honestly, I don't think I need to explain exactly why stans are horrible. I mean, just look at the dream stans. They're pretty much just as bad. Actually, no, they're not. I will not be saying that, because dream stans are way FLA files. FLA files are basically just like mini animations that you can usually download or buy, you know, for some reason, for an object show, most popularly BFDI, or I don't know if it was for Inanimate Insanity, not that I know of, I don't think. But yeah, this was definitely popularized by BFDI, as a lot of things on this iceberg. But yeah, so basically you can download FLA files of backgrounds, the BFDI assets, like arms and limbs and all that stuff. I tried to do that before, but I don't know how to animate on Adobe Animate, so I never really finished it. So yeah, feel free to download those if you want. I might leave a link in the description. Again, I will probably forget. Comics. This entry just refers to all the comics created of object shows. The most popular instances of this happening were Total Fiery Points, Total Fiery Island, and the Inanimate Insanity comics made by Cake Brunch. I think Cake Brunch made them. I don't know. I don't read those. They look cool. I just don't read them. But, you know, yeah. I feel like the only downside to these, though, is that, like, I don't really see them being made anymore. Like nobody really, like, makes comics for their object shows, which it's not a bad thing, but it is kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie. Hypercrystal. Okay, if you don't know who Hypercrystal is, he's basically like one of the biggest BFDI related YouTubers. Like, even though he only has like 150k, like he's pulling numbers like he has like 700,000 subscribers. Like, dude, he has like, I don't know, like 10 videos max. Like, I mean, minimum that have over 1 million views. Like, he has to be like I think he's up there in the freaking in the OSC Hot 100. Like, I think he's actually in there, but I could be wrong. But like, he's huge. He's actually fucking huge, bro. The BFDIA dance. This entry just refers to a dance that a lot of contestants did in BFDI 10 that gets on my nerves because I see it everywhere, all over the OSC. It is on my freaking recommended tab, and it annoys me so much to see it. At first it was funny, but now I keep seeing it everywhere, and it's driving me insane. But like I said with Fiery Underwear, this is one of the many memes in BFDI, specifically BFDIA. But, this is just one of the many memes in BFDI that people are running into the ground, in my opinion. Yes, that is my opinion. You are not entitled to my... Meetups. This entry is pretty self-explanatory. Meetups are basically just meetups. You get to meet famous creators in the OSC like Jack Jellify and Insanity. I think who am I talking about? I think Bribe's usually there too. Webbs is there. I think I don't really pay attention to those. I'm not really always updated with the meetups, but they seem pretty fun. I always kind of wanted to go to one. I was never able to, but hopefully I can go to one day because they seem pretty fun. There's been a lot of them in the past, but I don't know, who knows. Teapot was not going to happen. I know what you're thinking. This is not a theory. This was actually said by Satomi herself, that they were going to, instead of splitting up BFB, what they were going to do instead was kill off 46 contestants. Yeah, I know it sounds kind of stupid, but it was actually true, and that would have upset so many people in the OSC, it is not even funny. I'm gonna be honest though, it would be kind of cool to see what the OSC would be like in an alternate timeline, to where Teapot actually didn't happen and they just freaking killed off 46 contestants. Yo, bro, the amount of they would lose so many subscribers. Yo. Shape World was just an object show that got famous for being really bad. I don't mean object terror bad. I mean bad quality. The animation was pretty bad and the voice acting was pretty bad. In fact, around 2019 to 2021, everybody was trying to reboot Shape World. I think there were 5 reboots. And the funny thing is, all 5 reboots were made by different people. And when I tell you everybody was trying to reboot Shape World, I'm not even lying to you. When I was on Scratch at the time, there were at least 3 Shape World reboots. Why? What's everybody trying to reboot this? Nah, I'm just playing. I'm playing. I watched all of them. I know. I'm a hypocrite, but yeah, I did watch all of them. They were pretty funny. Fiery Underwear. Fiery Underwear is one of the many memes in the object show community. It started from some dude named Cloudy Eggs, basically just making it into a meme. And then Carrie made a song about it, and then it got popular basically. But so it turns out the dude that made Fiery Underwear, Cloudy Eggs, about that guy. He turned out to be a weirdo too. Well, we're gonna talk about him more indefinitely at the bottom of the iceberg. Of course we are. Meetups. This entry is pretty self-explanatory. Meetups are basically just meetups. You get to meet famous creators in the OSC like Jack Jellify and Insanity. I think who am I talking about? I think Bribe's usually there too. Webbs is there. I think I don't really pay attention to those. I'm not really always updated with the meetups, but they seem pretty fun. I always kind of wanted to go to one. I was never able to, but hopefully I can go to one day because they seem pretty fun. There's been a lot of them in the past, but I don't know, who knows. HTwins.net. HTwins.net was an old website created by Michael and Carrie Huang, basically just where it would have a bunch of old flash files of BFDI assets, backgrounds, character stuff. But unfortunately, this website doesn't really work anymore, is because Flash Player was shut down in 2020. So, all of the files there don't really work anymore. So if you want BFDI assets, either download the FLA files or you can go to the wiki. But hey, if you want to try it, then go for it, I guess. You're gonna get disappointed though. PowerPoint shows. This entry just refers to a mini genre in the object show community, which was basically the same as other object shows, just made on PowerPoint instead of Adobe Flash, Anime Studio, or Flickr. This genre was most popular in like the mid 2010s / late early 2010s. I will say that this genre is dying off is because more people are starting to use Adobe Animate because one, there's like cracked versions on YouTube that you can download for free, and two, it's just a more efficient animation app to use for animatic shows, And if you don't know what an animatic show is, it's post-to-post animation. But yeah, people just realized that Adobe Animate was a better platform to use. So they decided to move to that, and the PowerPoint genre in the object show community is slowly dying out today. Woody's fears. This wonderful entry is basically just referring to how, how do I say this? Woody in BFB used to, not anymore, used to be a pussy. Okay, look, I know, it's insensitive, but it's true. He was a scaredy cat. He was scared of everything. And by everything, I mean everything. There's like a 200-page list of all of his fears. But, fortunately, Woody does not have a lot of these fears anymore, and now runs a show, which used to be owned by Blocky, but is now owned by Woody, called Woody's Fear Destroyer in Post-Lit BFB. So, yeah. Woody got the happy ending this time. And, not everybody on this Iceberg got the happy ending, I will tell you that. Contestant vote shows. This entry basically just refers to all of the contestant vote shows. Mainly Inanimate Insanity is the most popular instance of this happening, is because it was one of the first contestant vote shows ever. Along with Object Overload, that was also a very interesting one too. It was one of the first contestant vote shows in the OSC. And then after Inanimate Insanity and Object Overload, people started doing contestant vote shows way more. And it's kind of became its own, little niche within the object show community. Cut lines and scenes. This entry is pretty self-explanatory. This just refers to all the cut lines and scenes in object shows. Like I said earlier, mainly in BFDI and Inanimate Insanity. You could go to some of their videos, or you can go to some other commentary videos made by other creators on this topic. Because I'm not going to elaborate more, it's because I already talked about this, and I'm too lazy. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I really am sorry. Filler. Basically just filler in object shows to where, the characters are just doing dumb stuff, just to do dumb stuff for no reason. One of the more funnier instances of filler in object shows will be in Inanimate Insanity Season 2, where they actually brought it up in a pretty funny and jokingly way. But if you're an aspiring object show creator, I would say to avoid filler in your object shows. I mean, it's not, entirely unavoidable, but just try to get around it as much as you can. Alternate episode endings. This entry just refers to all the cut lines and cut endings in episodes, mainly BFDI, and I think the most popular instances of this happening was in BFB 3. Correction, it was not in BFB 3. BFB 3 had a whole alternate episode, which I'm not going to go into today, because we'll be here for about 3 hours. So, yeah. Basically, the alternate episode was a backwards race, I think. I am not a good researcher, I'm so sorry. But, yeah, so, I think there was an alternate ending in BFB, or BFDI 25. I do not know what that was exactly, it's just something that I heard from a couple of my friends. So if you guys know what any of that means, then feel free to elaborate with me in the comments. BFDI Theories. BFDI Theories was a show most popularized by creators like Fast Duck and Fortle, who basically just theorized alternate endings, versions, and the true meanings of certain BFDI episodes or characters. I used to binge watch these back in the day while I would eat stuff. I don't know why, something about that just made me want to watch BFDI Theories while I was eating. I don't know why, I just did. But yeah, a lot of these theory videos get pretty good views, especially if you go to Fast Duck's channel. A lot of his theory videos have over 100,000 views, I think. Yes, actually, yes they do. Some of them do, not all of them. But yeah, they do get pretty good views. Oh, that's all for Tier 2. Let's move on to Tier 3. Anime Studio. Anime Studio was a pretty niche animation app used by some OSC creators back in the day, mainly Animation Epic when they created an Anime Insanity Season 1. I will say Anime Studio is pretty outdated and primitive compared to a lot of newer animation apps today like Flip a Clip, but it still gets the job done if you want to pay like $65 for it. BFB 31. This is an unknown creepypasta created by a unknown person that I do not know at all. Basically this creepypasta is just like a supposed lost episode of BFB, enter BFB 31, that does not exist at all. I cannot find any media of this at all. So feel free to let me know in the comments what you think BFB 31 could be. BFB was just a dream. This entry is basically just referring to a creepypasta made about BFB by Exploshi, who makes, rather disturbing animations that are like intent to be disturbing. But basically this animation was just about how there's a possibility that BFB could be a dream. And it gives some pretty fun reasons for this creepypasta, and all around it's a pretty cool creepypasta or a fun theory to really think about. What if BFB was just a dream? What if none of that actually existed? And honestly, when you really think about it, it is pretty interesting to, wonder about BFDI. No one is safe. I honestly have no idea what this entry is referring to at all. I think it's some type of creepypasta, but I don't know. I just have no idea. I tried to elaborate for you guys. I just don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think this could mean. But yeah, I have just about no idea what this means at all. Pibby in the OSC. At around the time that Pibby was blowing up, a lot of people were using Pibby in their own object shows and kind of, making it a fun thing to introduce into the object show community. But this did slowly kind of die out, though, unfortunately. But it would have been a cool premise to have within an object show. It just kind of sucks that it wasn't elaborated more on. You know what I mean? Flip a Clip. Flip a Clip is a common animation app used in the OSC that a lot of users use. Honestly, it's right up there with Adobe Animate. Just it's not it's up there. I would say it's definitely up there. It's not at Adobe Animate level yet, but it definitely is up there with Adobe Animate. It's the second most used animation app for every object show. Teardrop is traumatized. Okay, this one is just dumb. No, Teardrop is not traumatized because she can't speak. She is literally mute. Okay, I mean, she might not be mute, but it's kind of hard to not believe that. I mean, seeing, she hasn't talked at all. She's been around since January of 2010, as far as we know, and she hasn't spoken in the past almost 15 years. That wouldn't make any sense. Unless you're mute, you wouldn't, you would probably have spoken by then. You know what I mean? So that just already proves that Teardrop is mute and, proves this theory false. BFDI was not the first object show. This entry is actually correct. BFDI was not the first object show. It was actually Total Fiery Island and Total Fiery Points. Well, okay, technically those were object comics, but it could work. You know what I mean? I don't actually, now that I think about it, probably not. But still, this entry is mostly false, seeing how there was no evidence of any object show being created before January 1st, 2010. The BFB post-split controversy. This entry mainly refers to the controversy surrounding BFB post-split, seeing how the writing quality was significantly worse. The reason was, the main writer for BFB, Satomi Hinatsu, actually left the crew, which kind of took away BFB's spark. And because of that, BFB post-split was heavily criticized by the object show community, and looking back on it, I mean, it wasn't the worst season ever, but it also wasn't one of the best too. You know what I mean? It could have been better. I just don't think that all of the criticism was deserved. You know what I mean? To be honest, BFB post-split wasn't horrible. There were some okay episodes, but honestly, I could definitely see where a lot of the criticism is coming from. But again, that season ended 2 years ago, so what are we even talking about? Arcs. Character arcs are basically just self-made relationships between characters and object shows. This was popularized in BFDI, I think season 1 too. While most of these arcs are normal, there are some arcs that are kind of strange, or some arcs that have a lot of deep-rooted history, like the Fiery and Leafy arc. Honestly, that spawned a whole spontaneous combustion of twists and turns and different events between Fiery and Leafy throughout BFDI. And it started over a freaking Ferris wheel. That is, I still can't wrap my head around that, honestly. Like, to this day, I cannot wrap my head around that. Alliances. Alliances are similar to arcs, but instead of just being simple friendships, they're friendships made to bring both characters involved, or multiple characters involved, to the end of the game with each other. And also similarly to arcs, there are some controversial ones like the Match and Pencil and Bubble and Ruby and Ice Cube and Book Alliance. I know they're not all in the same alliance because technically Ice Cube and Book are alternates, but they're all in the same clique. Like, let's be honest. That alliance, though, has had some controversy, mainly because of how Pencil and Match treated Bubble and BFB. Mainly Match is because Pencil got out in the first episode for being an asshole. We're not going to get into that, though. Anyways, canceled shows. This entry just refers to all of the canceled shows. A good example of this would be Object Havoc, which was a show that was canceled back in 2016. The reason because of the show being canceled was that the creator lost motivation into working on it, which is kind of like, that's the most popular reason for a creator to not want to make an object show anymore, is that they lost motivation, which it does kind of suck. But then again, I mean, one day we might all move out of the object show community, you know what I mean? Like, people grow up. But then again, there are some, older creators in the object show community that were around back in the day. So, you know what I mean? That might not be the case for everybody. Ruby Sugar Stash. The context behind this entry is that in an old animation that Michael and Carrie made about the Jing Jing Squisher, one of their first uploads, they mentioned how Ruby really, really, really likes sugar. This was seen as insensitive by a lot of people, seeing how the animation alluded to the fact that Ruby was addicted to cocaine. But Michael and Carrie later addressed the situation as false, and it was just meant to be a sugar stash. But the apology was fake, which, yeah. PowerPoint shows died off. If I'm going to be 100% honest, that is kind of sad to see a genre of the OSC die off. Like, to me, that would be like if the SOSC died off. I'd be kind of sad. It does kind of hurt to see a sub-community within the OSC die out like that. I know some PowerPoint object show creators myself that kind of left the community afterward. But, then again, that kind of does happen with any community that you're in, you know what I mean? But with that being said, that's all for Layer 3. Let's move on to Layer 4. BFDI Ship Generator. This is just honestly disturbing. I mean, if you use this, then you're... Body pillows. For some reason, people collect body pillows of object show characters and just do God knows what to those pillows. I don't even like to talk about those people. Honestly, dude, I don't know who makes these body pillows. I don't know where people get these body pillows from. Sometimes, people bring those to the meetups that have kids there. Yeah, there's just, sometimes people are just weird in any community. Bo. Bo is a female contestant in Inanimate Insanity who died and was a spirit for the rest of Inanimate Insanity until around Inanimate Insanity Invitational. But she's still dead. TestTube just created a bot because of her. What, you guys actually thought that I was going to say that Bo was still alive? No, she's dead. She's long gone. Hey, but at least we got a robot version for a while. Evil Leafy. Evil Leafy is technically the main villain in BFDI, but she doesn't really show up much nowadays, and the last time that she actually showed up was BFDIA. And yes, I am aware of the fact that she does appear sometimes in BFDIA nowadays, but canonly, like, in the story of the show, she doesn't really appear anymore. Expose videos. This entry is pretty self-explanatory, just expulsion videos made on other object show creators. You can find expulsion videos in any community, though they're not really a niche thing. Object redundancy. Object redundancy was pretty high on the list for one of the most hated object shows, mainly just because it had a lot of swearing in it, and the kids, obviously, were not a fan of object redundancy because of the swearing, inappropriate language, and honestly, I don't really care about the swearing. It's just the jokes in the show were just pretty unfunny. Nah, I'm just playing. The jokes were actually pretty good, but, of course, the kids at the time in the OSC weren't a fan of it, so they decided to go ahead and nip that show in the butt before it even got popular. One was basically a psychological horror-based object show that, like, it just insanely blew up. Like, there's blowing up, but then, like, there's one level. Like, one is, like, it has to be one of the most popular object shows in the OSC besides BFDI and Inanimate Insanity. Like, like the amount of support and like it's just insane. Honestly, you would have to watch the show for yourself to get what I mean. Discontinued shows. As you can tell, this entry is mainly referring to all the discontinued shows that were either canceled right before the series started or very shortly afterward. 4's kill count. Okay, I don't care what you say, 4 is one of the most deadly object show hosts ever, and you can only imagine how high his kill count actually is after BFB especially. I mean, just consider the amount of contestants he's killed. Like, probably all of them by now, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, if there were no recovery centers, they'd probably all be dead. Snack Time. Snack Time was a very old, edgy kinda object show. It was just created by a bunch of kids, though, that just cursed as the characters a bunch. That was just kind of it. I mean, really, you can just technically think of it as a downgraded version of Object Redundancy. The Object Show Movie. The Object Show Movie was a short film created back in 2015 to celebrate the OSC's first 5 years of existence. Unfortunately, only 2 parts were released until the movie taking almost 10-year hiatus due to the amount of time that it actually takes to make a film and the creator's, well, personal life. A prologue was created for the movie back in 2020 by the creator, Potato of Awesome, and he still regularly makes community posts discussing the movie. And if you're watching this in the future when the movie comes out, don't spoil it, please. I'm begging you. Please. Wrong finger. This was a joke back in BFDI 1A created by Pin and Leafy to basically where, well, Pin flipped off Leafy. This was a fun joke back in the community until around 2021 when Carrie disproved the theory by raising up his ring finger instead of the middle finger. I'm not gonna lie, it is still kind of funny just thinking that Pin technically told Leafy to fuck off. Disturbing object shows. This entry mainly refers to object shows like Object Terror, which literally include gore and sexual scenes within those shows. And honestly, the people that make these series and cartoons and that's just disgusting. I can't even imagine what the fans of those shows have to go through. It's really bad, man. Like in some communities, it's worse than others. It's kind of bad. Total Fruit Island. Total Fruit Island was the supposed second object show to ever be made, created back on December 8th, 2010. But the thing that got people talking about Total Fruit Island was because, well, the show was damn near lost. Like, there wasn't really any media for it for a while, you know what I mean? There was a whole search team trying to find this object show. Eventually, though, the search ended with little to no evidence on what happened to Total Fruit Island, which is kind of sad. I don't think we're ever going to get any media on it, unfortunately, but, you know, that's just kind of how things go. Voting after voting ended. This is mostly just kids voting years after voting ended for object shows. Like, there's still people, to this day, voting on BFDI 1A, even though voting ended, like almost 20 years ago. It's okay though, like, honestly, it got me the first time, I'm not even gonna lie. And that is all for Tier 4, let's move on to Tier 5. Okay, so, one quick thing before we move on with the Iceberg. In the final 2 layers of this video, I talk about a lot of this, and if you are uncomfortable with hearing about this horrible human behavior, then feel free to click off the video now. But if you are brave enough, please proceed with caution. Filthy Frank and Be Awesome 1 drama. This is just a stupid entry talking about the drama between Be Awesome 1, a object show creator, and the very well-known Filthy Frank over some, I don't know, weird drama that I'm not going to talk about in this video. It's because I do not want to, and you guys probably do not want to hear about it. So we're just going to move on. Cloudy Eggs drama. Unfortunately, the creator of the very popular BFDI meme, Fiery Underwear, was exposed for being a pedophile a while back. Cloudy Eggs would indulge in very strange and disgusting roleplay with minors about diaper humiliation roleplay. Yes, I just said that out loud, and yes, it is absolutely distasteful, and honestly, I don't really want to talk about this guy anymore. Just no more. I'm done. We're done here. Competition shows are eternal. This entry refers to the theory that competition shows, or the competition within object shows, are eternal. Shows like BFDI are a good example of this, mainly because they've been competing since 2008, and maybe even before that. Basically, what I mean by this is that the Total Fiery Island comics displayed them competing in a game show to win a prize. This has been going on until present day 2024 at the time of recording this. It might be later on when you're watching this. But, yeah. And honestly, this is a pretty interesting theory, but you know what I mean? It is, probably fake, because there are non-competition shows out there, and IDFB was a non-competitive season, so, yeah, DistroKid. This was a drama revolving J&J and a website by the name of DistroKid that was taking all of Michael's music that he made for BFDI and claiming it as their own. This was actually incredibly scummy to do to Michael and Carrie. I mean, honestly, why would you take someone's music and claim it as your own? And then, they also took down videos that had BFDI music in it, which made the situation even worse, honestly. And luckily, this situation was resolved a while ago, and this hopefully won't happen again to J&J. I'm hoping that it doesn't. Fiery Fee. This is an absolutely disgusting ship between the popular duo in BFDI, Fiery and Leafy, and honestly, I despise ships in general, but this one has to be one of the worst, mainly because of the media made to support this ship. There's a lot of suggestive art with these characters, and multiple people have made series going over it, or animated series parodying this ship, and not to mention the art. It's honestly just disgusting, and I personally dislike all ships, so take of that as you will. Insane fans. This entry is pretty self-explanatory. This just refers to all of the insane fans of object shows, basically the body pillow collectors and the how do I say this? Special art creators of object shows that I will not be elaborating on any further. So, take of that as you will. I personally detest these people, but you have your own opinion. Jack and Jellify Thanksgiving tweet 2018. This entry is referring to a tweet created by Jack and Jellify on Thanksgiving Day 2018, where they drew some art of Leafy saying, have you eaten enough turkey? But there was one thing off about this drawing. You see, Leafy had a abnormally large stomach in the drawing, and there was a speech bubble coming out of her stomach, suggesting that there was a person or another object within her. And that sparked some controversy, is because it was a trigger warning for a pretty disgusting word in 3, 2, 1, portraying vor in that tweet. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting situation. Wild times back then. Object show lost media. Total Fruit Island was the supposed second object show to ever be made that actually predates Anime Insanity by a couple months, seeing how it was supposedly uploaded on December 8th, 2010. But this show, disappeared. I mean, nobody has ever seen a actual complete episode of Total Fruit Island. There is close to no media on this show whatsoever, and there only really are a couple of supposed screenshots and a supposed intro made for the show. And honestly, that's kind of all that we have. There was a search team trying to find it, but they did find a very small amount of media, and Total Fruit Island seems to be lost to this day. OSC Analog Horror. This entry is referring to all of the instances of analog horror within the OSC. A video of Fast Duck was uploaded to his channel where he talked about analog horror in the OSC and gave a good example of it, along with a video made by Zaydash Animates where he would also make a slash creepypasta slash analog horror of BFDI, a supposed lost episode, that type of stuff. But there aren't really many instances in the OSC of actual analog horror. That seems like a newer thing that will probably come to be more along in the future. OSC gore. 2 words. Object terror. And with that being said, we are done with Tier 5. Let's move on to the final layer of this iceberg, Tier 6. Animation Area. Animation Area was an object show YouTuber most popular for his object shows BFOD in anyone's game. but back in 2018 he was exposed for having recordings of little girls hiccup. Yes, that was a sentence that I just said out loud, and I never want to say something like that ever again, not even anything related to that sentence. So, without any further context, let's just move on to the next entry. Rumors. This entry is mainly self-explanatory, just disgusting creators in every community that enjoy talking to children in inappropriate ways. Unfortunately, this has been done many times in the object show community. A good example of this would be YouTubers like Skater Cheese and Odyssey 10. But that's all for now. Let's move on to the next entry, because I do not want to talk about this anymore. NSFW and object show wikis. I personally cannot confirm if this is true or not, is because if there was not safe for work art in any object show Wikipedia page, then it would probably be deleted instantly. So, this is most likely word of mouth, but it could be true, it could not be, I am not sure. Graphic deaths. This entry is also pretty self-explanatory, just graphic deaths in object shows. The perfect example of this would be an object show by the name of Object Terror that has gore in it, but there's other shows too. I mean, there was this character back in Object Overload named Melanie, and she died a lot. She was one of those characters who only served one purpose, and that was dying. And whenever she did die, since she was a fruit, she would die in very brutal ways. Not too brutal for kids not to be able to watch, but still pretty brutal. Last Object Standing. Last Object Standing was an object show created by YouTuber BAwesomeOne back in 2016, and the show was most known for its edgy humor and just kind of how the show was more adult. Not too inappropriate, but the humor was more on the edgier side. It also featured a cuss word that was actually illegal in some parts of the world that I'm not going to say, but let's just say that it starts with a C and ends with a T. Land of the Objects. Land of the Objects is sitting right next to Total Fruit Island for being one of the most obscure object shows to ever be in the object show community. There is little to no media on the show whatsoever. The date is unknown, and the creator of the show is also unknown. Unfortunately, there is very little media for this show, and, well, that's it. It's gone, and it's probably never coming back. Criminal OSC YouTubers. As far as I know, there's only been one OSC YouTuber to actually come in contact with the police over a crime that they committed online. And that YouTuber was a OSC YouTuber by the name of Gabo the Planet, who got a $1,000 fine for trespassing into another OSC YouTuber, Bushy Mason's house, and recorded a video of it that I will not be showing you in this video. And he was only fined $1,000, even though he broke into their house and ended up doxing that other YouTuber. So, as far as I know, Gabo the Planet has been the only OSC YouTuber to actually come into negative contact with the police, and hopefully he will be the only one. Nevada the X Tate. Nevada the X Tate was an object show YouTuber who joined the OSC back in 2015 and has been thriving ever since. Or, that's what we thought. You see, at around 2020 to 2021 is when Nevada the X Tate turned around 18 years old, and he was drafted into the Iranian War. And, well, we haven't really heard anything from him since. He made a final live stream addressing the situation and dipped. He's gone. Also, I said Iranian War, but he's Israeli, so I'm sorry about that. I meant the wrong war. Please do not take that. Please do not take that as any disrespect. I didn't mean that. I said the wrong one. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. OSC YouTubers with horrible pasts. There is a lot of examples of OSC YouTubers like this, like Gabo the Planet, Gary, ClinkyBot, and a lot of other creators that I'm not going to mention in this video. Some of them have changed for the better, and others have just left the internet entirely. But, I guess it is what it is, I guess. Retro Guy. Retro Guy was an object show YouTuber most popular in the early days of the OSC, but he was kind of criticized for being a pretty mean guy to some other smaller OSC YouTubers, and after all of that drama, he just ended up leaving the OSC, and no one really knows where he is to this day. Inappropriate roleplays. If you're in a couple of OSC Discord servers, especially some of the more niche ones, then you might find a roleplay channel within that Discord server. And while some of this roleplay is, I guess, tame, there's a lot of very, very strange roleplay that OSC YouTubers engage with, with each other. And in fact, that was one of the reasons why Cloudy Eggs got exposed, is because he was involved with one of these degenerate role plays. Not one of the normal ones. I'm saying normal with heavy air quotes. But the type of roleplay that he was getting into is some very, very weird stuff that I will not be elaborating on in this video. NSFW ships. It's not a secret to anyone in the object show community that there is ship art of a lot of characters, mainly in popular object shows like BFDI and Infinite Sanity. But while a lot of the ship art isn't really necessarily inappropriate, there's definitely a dark side to that, and I would say, like, search it up if you want, but I feel like that'd be spreading a bad message. I mean, you do what you want. I can't control what you do on your computer, but I would advise you not to search up any of that art because it will ruin your childhood. Object shows that never existed. This entry is also kind of like the Object Show Lost Media entry, and it just refers to object shows that were canceled during production of the first episode or canceled and deleted shortly after the first episode was released. Super Mighty Michael. Super Mighty Michael was an object show YouTuber who was most popular for his object show The Optical and the Illusions. He now goes by the alias Hookaboy and was embarrassed by his show is because of his school at the time, and he also had a crush on another girl at his school. So he decided to delete his object show along with his channel, and for a while, a lot of people thought that Retro Guy actually bullied him off of the internet. But he later responded in a comment on a video by Soy Sauce claiming that was not true. And as for what he's doing nowadays, he's kind of just posting normal videos. Teardrop can destroy the world. This theory, it's bullshit. Teardrop cannot destroy the world. Basically, the theory is that the reason why Teardrop doesn't talk is because if she does, it will destroy the world. But this is not true, is because Teardrop is a mute. Obviously, they haven't talked in freaking 14 years. Why? You know what I mean? You can't not talk for 14 years unless you're mute. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed this huge project of mine, then go ahead and hit that little white button down there, and go ahead and turn on the post notifications. I know it sounds cringy. Hopefully, I've already earned your subscription by this point in the video, and I doubt like any of you are actually still watching, but you know, if you are, then thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and be notified whenever I post a new video. I know it's cringy, but I've probably earned your subscription already. So, yeah. Goodbye.